The season opener at Long Beach had the unpredictability that we expected. But despite heading to a more traditional purpose-built road course, a lesson can be learned from round one. Qualifying will be key. Barber is not known for being conducive to passing and tends to set up some tense battles because of it. We'll see if it plays a factor today as we get ready to watch round two of the PRL Indy Pro 2000 series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Barber Motorsports Park is among the newer circuits built here in the US. Let's head to our track guide to learn more about it. Welcome to Barber Motorsports Park. Located just east of Birmingham, Alabama, this is one of the newer circuits in American road racing. The track was built in 2003 by George Barber to go along with his Barber Vintage Motorsports Museum, which can be seen appropriately from Museum Corner on the track. While the main circuit is the full course, which includes 16 turns over roughly 2.25 miles, there are also two lesser used layouts called the Short A and Short B courses. The track is known for its technical layout and hugely dramatic elevation changes. In every category of racing, it carries a reputation of making overtakes difficult. That's not to say it's impossible, with most passes happening into Charlotte's Web. Named for the spider sculpture outside the hairpin, it often suckers drivers into braking too deep with a sudden drop just as you attempt to slow the car down. That's not the most challenging part of the circuit, though. Museum Corner is reminiscent of turns like the Corkscrew, with its blind entry, multiple apexes, and cliff-like plunge down a hill. IndyCar and IMSA have visited many times in the past decade, while motorcycle racing is also a regular staple here. Practice and precision are usually required to be able to find a fast lap, but there's a heavy dose of bravery also needed in a number of spots. Despite the track being very wide, accidents often collect multiple cars due to the lack of visibility over crests. All in all, this place proves tough to even seasoned veterans. But with the hillsides and trees providing beautiful natural viewing spaces and an immaculate facility, it's no wonder fans keep showing up in droves to watch the racing here. Of course, race fans have seen IndyCar visit here plenty of times, but the Indy Pro 2000, how is that going to play out in today's race here, DJ?
Well, Joe, to steal an old phrase, it's going to be very, very interesting. Barber, as you said, is one of the newer purpose-built tracks here in the U.S., but it is purpose-built for bike racing. So as a result, when you put these open-wheel cars on it, it makes things very, very difficult. Passing is going to be an absolute premium around here. The best opportunity you will get in these Indy Pros, though, is really going into Turn 5, that hairpin after the first long carousel through the Turn 1 section. They're going to have to be very patient, though, all the way around. One of the characteristics of this track that makes it difficult in any road-going car is that you have to wait to get on the throttle. These corners are very, very long. You get on the throttle too early, you're going to understeer and end up in the grass. So you've got to be calm, you've got to be patient, and I think, honestly, the best way that anybody's going to be able to make a pass here tonight is going to be by constantly applying pressure to the car in front and forcing them into a mistake.
Well, who can withstand that pressure and keep from making those mistakes to hand away those spots? That's going to be a question that'll have to be answered once the check eyes. Before then, today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
The PRL Indy Pro 2000 series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Now, with only one round in, the championship is pretty much how you would expect. Nick Johnston up at the top with the victory, leading by 3 points over Verity and 3 more back to J.R. Williams. Then we've got Owen McLaughlin, and then a tie between Guyon and Matthew Hall. Some of that due to the bonus points that we'll go over in a little bit, explain how that can happen here after only one round. Of course, we have a team's championship, we have an AM championship first before we get to that. DJ, what does that look like?
Well, there you can see Kyle Stritcharts is the one in the lead with 36 points. Sean Duhamel closely behind him in 2. Once again, only one race in the book, so these are all going to be pretty close, with Tyler Gore, Brett Accord, and Lucio Vargas lining up and making up your top 5 there.
Now onto the team's championship as we take a look at where things sit for that one. Blown Tranny Racing only 1 point ahead of VHR Racing Team 1. So, boy, awful tight up at the top after one round, and things can be much more spread apart after the first round in teams. So that tells you something. Rust Racing and SRT Esport Blue are actually tied for third as well. And then it's very little back to moving chicane, and Lavoie Motorsports rounding out your top 5 positions after Long Beach. For a quick brief for our new viewers, why don't you go over our race details for today, DJ?
Well, here in the Indy Pro 2000 Series, this is the second of 10 rounds. As always, it is a 45-minute race, open setup across the board so these drivers can tweak and tune their cars, so whatever's going to suit their driving style and suit the track itself. The only caveat being is that we do have fuel restriction here in place, so all of these drivers will be making one pit stop over the course of the race. Now, in terms of incident points, you get 11. If you get 11 incident points over the course of the race, you will get a drive-through. 20 will result in a disqualification. Those bonus points that you mentioned, with the championship looking potentially as tight as it is, these could come massively into play here. You get bonus points for pole, for a fastest lap, and if you finish the race with 3 incidents or left, and at a tricky track like Barber, Joe, I think that last one's going to be very difficult to do.
Yeah, if they're pushing, it's going to be easy to go off in a few places. Now, right now, the bonus for pole looks like it might go to Greg Seitz, and by quite a margin, Nick Johnston is more than half a second back from the 74. He actually took pole and fastest lap, 2 of the bonus points last time out at Long Beach, but didn't even finish on the top 5. In fact, yeah, he was outside the top 10 even, with an 11th at the last round. So Seitz has got some work to do to try and make up. They will have the drop round to come into play later on in the season. Of course, he doesn't want to use that up too early. Here's Nick Johnston, our winner last time out, right here as the 28 approaches the line. Doesn't go faster than his 16.4, though.
No, he's not. You still see him supporting that lovely California-based livery, although we are in virtual Alabama here as we watch Donald Olson working his way through the corner. Here comes Nicholas Colander coming across the line. He is heartbreakingly unable to improve, off by 1,000th of a second there. Jacob Exton crossing the line. He also is unable to improve.
Declan Eady just moved up to 4th, though. He's about 0.8 off of our pole time, but 3/100ths off of Verity, who sits in 3rd. This is Seitz back to the line. He's already got half a second up, and though he goes quick, he's not quicker. He was about 1/10 off of his best lap that time through.
So a slow lap there from Seitz, but just something to keep in mind, that is still a full half second up on Johnston in 2nd. And Joe, you mentioned at the top of the broadcast just how tricky it is to pass here. I think if Greg Seitz is able to put this thing on pole and he's able to run times like this, we may see him disappear off into the distance very quickly.
Yeah, at that point, only he could stop himself, I would imagine. As we see if Johnston can get any closer. He's down into the line. That's better. 16.1. However, it's still 4/10 shy of Greg Seitz, but it shows that Nick is finding something out there. Nguyen is in 11th, and Frank this time by was on a slow lap as he spins it out even down into turn 1.
So easy to do that there, as there comes Colander across the line. He's going to be able to bump himself up to 34. That first corner is very, very tricky. You have to try to maximize the speed, as that front stretch, that pit stretch, is one of the longer straights. You want to maximize your speed through that corner. It's just a quick little brush of the brakes before you dive down into that long carousel section. Here comes Kyle Stritchards coming across the line. Stephen Verity, we're going to check in on. He's going to come across the line, unable to improve there for Verity. But yeah, that first corner complex, one of the more difficult ones here at a very, very technical and difficult track across the board.
Watching J.R. Williams, who's not able to go faster than his 16.8. Another one less than 1/10 back from David Menino. So despite there being a big gap up to the top, which unfortunately has gone back a little bit wider as Greg Seitz has pulled another 1/10 on everybody else with a 15.6, it does get very close from 2nd, essentially on down to, I'd say, 10th place or so.
Yeah, I think we could see a very good battle through the rest of the field, but Seitz just absolutely asserting dominance there. You see Sammy Bridges not able to improve his time. He's going to be all the way down in 40th. Here comes Barry Cochran, one of our AM drivers, about 100th of a second off his personal best, so no improvement there for Barry. Those numbers are not a strikeout, by the way. We are currently registering 42 drivers here today. Here comes Michael Broomhead, one of the AM drivers last year, now bumped up to the Pro Series. He is unable to improve on his flying lap.
Yeah, I went and checked, and yes, it is extremely tight through the midfield. It goes from, it looks like about 4th place all the way down to 16th place, where it is split by half a second. So that is most cars in there less than a 10th apart from one another. It'll be very easy to gain spots if you can find even a minor bit of pace around the lap. Legault, unfortunately not, no, he is one of them this time. He got up to a 17.2, so I think that netted him at least one position there potentially. We've switched to Paul Wildridge. He's currently down in 30th, which sounds way far down the order. It doesn't improve, but again, we have to remind you, 42 cars out here today, so 30th is still well before you get to the tail end of the field. Cochran, on the other hand, is still sitting in 38th.
Yeah, a lot of these AM drivers really looking like they are struggling here today, and who can blame them on a tricky track like this? We'll be talking about it all day, as I'm sure that the race is going to prove a few incidents here and there. Here comes Dave Peterson across the line. Great improvement there from Peterson, bumping himself up to 8th position. Here comes Seitz again across the line. Looks like he's maybe on a warm-up, a slow lap there from him.
Yeah, and we were talking about this before the broadcast with how many cars we have out there. It makes me wonder if lap traffic will be a deciding factor in the race.
I certainly think it could be, Joe. As we look across the live timing and scoring, there is about a 5-second difference between number 1 Greg Seitz and current last qualifier of Christopher Smorrell. So that is going to be caught up to very, very quick on a 1:15 type lap here. So I would imagine after 5, 10, 20 laps, we're going to get some very heavy traffic for our leaders.
Paul Wildridge down in 32nd, comes off of turn 16 onto the front stretch. And that 1:18.1 unfortunately will stay put as he doesn't find any pace that time through. Then it's Nick Johnston still in 2nd place, still half a second back. And that 17.1 is about a second off of his quickest, so he's going to have to re-rack and try again.
Ticking down to about 2 minutes to go here in the session, so these guys will have roughly about 2 laps left to try to qualify there. Oh my goodness gracious, Greg Seitz going even faster with a 15.506.
He looks determined to make up for that first race. Granted, qualifying and the race are two very different things, and though he will get a bonus point, the most of the points will be paid off in the race itself. Just watch to see if Owen McLaughlin made any pace that time through. He did not. He'll stay P6. This is Legault on screen as we switch through quickly, trying to see if we can find anybody going any faster.
Well, and as I look at these lap times, Joe, the number of green times we're seeing from these drivers is starting to trail off a little bit. So as this track starts to rubber in a little bit, temperature maybe works its way up. We're currently sitting at 80 degrees, so that's a real nice track temperature here in Alabama. Johnson coming across the line right now. Let's see if he can improve. He cannot. But those track conditions clearly not favoring all drivers here, as a lot of guys are finding it difficult to put in fast times.
Yeah, and they are starting their final flying lap if they're coming across now, because it's less than a lap's worth of time to go. Adam Helm doesn't go any faster, so we head over to Owen McLaughlin, and he is going to abandon his next lap, even though he's got time. But he did set his quickest thus far. He'll stay put in 6th, unfortunately. Verity also going faster.
He's going faster, but he didn't move positions, Joe. He was 4th. He ends up 4th, able to better himself a little bit. Alexander there able to go up a little bit. Aaron Roof's coming across the line now with an 18.682. Looks like that is an outlap for him. So this is going to be his one and only flying lap. Roofs, one to keep an eye on here.
Edie and Cook both not able to go quicker. Looks like Nguyen is going to take the car into pit lane. Collender is down to the line, and he's currently 40th, so plenty of room to improve, but he's not going to be able to that time through. Checkered flag comes out. This is the end of the line. Got to finish those hot laps. We're watching Remillard, and it's going to be close. He does improve by 0.4 of a second. That'll get him up to 15th. Adam Helm completely off track, so that one will absolutely not count. Behind him, Dave Peterson in the 35 comes across, and he's not quicker.
He is not. Sights there coming across the line, 7/100ths off of his time, so he's unable to improve. Here comes third place David Menino across the line, about 1/10 off of his best time. Here comes Verity. Verity not able to improve just by a hair. We're starting to wrap up the last of the guys to make it out on this track. There's about 10 or there's about 5 coming across the line now.
And Declan Eady is going to be one of them. He's in the top 5. Let's see what he's got as the number 13 crosses. It's his best. It's a 16.4, but he doesn't go up any. He stays P5.
Nobody really able to jump. Him having the Stephen Verity factor there of getting hit out by going faster but not improving their time. Last one across the line here. Here comes Collender. Let's see if he can do any better than that 119 flat. He cannot. A 120.130. So he is going to be starting 40th.
And that is our grid set. So let's go through our starting order of this large field with Greg Seitz on the pole. Nick Johnston will be starting in second, along with David Menino starting P3. Stephen Verity will start 4th, followed by Declan Eady in the 5th position. Owen McLaughlin starts 6th, and then it's Alex Guyon on the inside of the next row in 7th. You've got J.R. Williams to his outside, and Michael Broomhead will start 9th. Dave Peterson rounds out your top 10.
Lining up behind Peterson in 11th is going to be Brett Thurman, followed by Julio Palacio. Olivier Legault going to be on the inside of row 7, followed by our first AM driver, Jacob Exton. Usually used to seeing an AM driver 2 in the top 10, but not here today. Behind them in row 8 is going to be Claude Remillard, followed by Matthew Hall, Frank Nguyen, and Eric LeBlanc lining up behind them. Sammy Bridges and Takashi Kita rounding out row 10.
Christopher Richards put it in 21st, followed by Tyler Gore in 22nd. Then you've got Sean Duhamel on the inside of the next row, and Kyle Strykars in 24th. Luis Gonzalez Nunez starts 25th. He's got Brett Accord to his right in 26th, and Donald Olson will start 27th behind them. Sebastian Prue will be 28th. P29 goes to Matthew Gunderson, and 30th goes to Adam Wright.
In 31st will be Paul Wildridge, followed by Bart Cook, Brian Hotham, and Neil Alexander lining up behind them in row 17. In 35th place is going to be Daniel Barnett, followed by Andrew Helm. Aaron Roofs in 37th. Very, very poor qualifying there for Roofs, followed by David Hebert in 38th. Barry Cochran will line up 39th, and Nicholas Collender in 40th. And then rounding out the rest of your field, Christopher Smorrell in 41st, and 42nd, Don Bowden, who did not set a time here today.
In fact, Don does not appear to be in the session currently, so I'm not sure that he'll be able to start the race at this point. It should be 41 that take the green flag. We've had some very lucky drivers and members of the PRL this past couple weeks or so. That's because they've been doing a drawing. Precision Racing League held that drawing for premium members of the league, where they could win a Butt Kicker Gamer 2 kit worth $180 and up to $225 in iRacing gift cards. To become a premium member of the series, simply head over to precisionracingleague.com. And the premium member that has won the Butt Kicker Gamer 2 is Hugo Galaz. A big congratulations to Hugo for snatching that one up. I'm sure it'll go to good use. And did I just hear someone on the radio say wrecking? We are on the pace lap. That is not a good sign.
No, it is not, and an ill omen of things to come, as I'm not sure who that was or what exactly happened, but I definitely heard the call.
Yeah, I quickly scrolled through, and I couldn't find anybody off course or hitting each other, so hopefully we can figure that out a little bit later. Find out who is shouting out wrecking. Maybe they just kind of half spun the car as they got it going off the line, trying to light up the tires. down into one of the few places you can try and overtake here into Charlotte's Web, and then they work their way back 180 degrees up and over a few hills into one of the more iconic turns, Museum Corner.
This really is a fantastic corner, Joe. It is one of the most difficult corners on the iRacing service. There, I said it. But it is one of the most rewarding if you get it right. And remember that even the pros are not immune from having a little off or two in this corner. I think it was 2 years ago, Takuma Sato, on his way to winning the race at Barber, decided to take a little excursion around the outside of that corner and do a little grass cutting.
Yeah, and the one that always comes to mind for me is after one time when it rained, there was a Daytona prototype when IMSA came there that went wide, and unfortunately the wet earth was a little too much, and that thing dug in. And boy, you want to talk about an accident that looks like it hurt. It just came to a halt in a hurry. I'll have to look up and see who that driver was, and hopefully they were okay after that one. Meanwhile, we come down the back stretch through the S's, up and over the blind crest of 12 and 13 towards the end of the lap. Pace car is going to give way to our leader, Greg Seitz, who's taken that bonus for pole. He did wind up with a huge margin over the next car down, 0.6 of a second over Nick Johnston. Can he make good on that in his race pace? Waiting for the green flag, and he goes very early coming out of the final turn. Green flag is out here for round 2 of the PRL Indy Pro 2000 series. Already trying to get into his slipstream. Nick Johnston rides behind him down into turn 1. Are we able to get through here clean? A lot of cars barreling into this first corner.
You see a little bit of an off there from the cars in the back, but it looks like for the moment everybody's been able to get through nice and clean, everybody nice and contained. To the surprise of nobody, though, Greg Seitz out pulling away, but Nicholas Johnson, for the time being, keeping him relatively honest, but Stephen Verity, right behind him as well. So this is going to be a close battle in the back, but Seitz now really starting to stretch his legs.
Roofs and Barnett seem to be in a bit of a tussle in turn 1 as they were both off course. And then I thought I saw Nguyen also have an interesting problem, but I couldn't quite make out what was causing him to fall down the order. Meanwhile, already our leaders on the backside of the course, Greg Seitz leading Johnston ahead of Stephen Verity, who has not given up third either. So pretty much status quo for our front runners.
Yeah, nothing really changing or doing. Everybody being nice and calm here to try to get everybody as smooth as possible. This is a tricky track. Nobody trying anything too gutsy thus far.
Completing lap 1. Ooh, and a mistake from Johnston. He's going to be susceptible down into turn 1. Verity knows it. He's barreling towards him, but he runs out of straightaway. Costly mistake for Nick Johnston. He has given up already 1.5 seconds to Seitz.
And Seitz is going to be very happy to see that happen. He can just start to look ahead and focus his way up the road right now, not have to worry about Johnson really closing in behind him.
Sorry, we've got a big accident. Michael Broomhead is involved in a number of other cars. Looks like Brett Accord. I see him off the road. Adam Wright. This is Broomhead. This is where it starts in the double lot. Let's see if we can get the replay here. Might have been a case of Broomhead having an initial problem and then others kind of piled in.
So there you see Broomhead on the inside through turn 1, brings that car a little bit wide, little bit of contact there in the back, and then that just unsettles the car just enough for Broomhead to get spun around through that carousel of turn 1. Now Broomhead trying to get on the power here, swings the car back around.
Whoa.
Oh, and Joe, you know what that is? That is accident ill avoidance. That is accident fixation. Those drivers behind him seeing him. So this is the 15, one of those cars that spun. This is Nunez.
I actually think this is a completely separate incident. There's contact we're going to see here, right there. And
yeah, you're completely right.
So it was just a confluence of everything coming together, unfortunately, and we made it through the first lap clean, but everybody seemed to have lost their minds a little bit through lap 2. Meanwhile, Seitz ahead of Johnston. And this is the number 28 in second place that we're watching right now through Charlotte's Web. 2 seconds behind with Verity, just about 1 second back from him. And again, we have to remember that lap traffic will probably play a factor in things here, so even though they have spread apart early on, don't think that it's going to be boring forever.
No, they are definitely going to give and take over the course of this race, back and forth and back and forth. And there you see Johnson working his way through there. That gap, as you said, just over 2 seconds for Sainz.
Don't need to go to it, but J.R. Williams has had a spin, and he's stuck in the middle of the track, I think, waiting for everybody to go by. Yeah, now he gets going. Let's head over to 9th place, where he got a little bit of a train forming behind Eric LeBlanc. He's being chased by Hall, Kita, and Gore.
Yeah, I was keeping my eye on this earlier. Down the backstretch at one point, they were in a nice little diamond formation, the four of them. There you see Greg Seitz setting the fastest lap of the race with a 16.224. Now, this draft train, as it were, it's not really going to be that beneficial for anybody. There isn't enough straightaway on this track to really take full advantage of the draft. Instead, you just get a little bit of dirty air through these long corners, so it gets very, very tough to deal with. But there you see Kita, as we ride on board with him, looking like he had a good run there out of turns 2 and 3.
He thinks about it down into Charlotte's Web, but then comes back to the racing line. Hall didn't even have to defend. Let's stay on board here for the run through Museum Corner. I'd love to watch this from this low of a perspective. You can see how blind it is into there, and it drops so much in elevation, and then you have to get right back on the power. All of them trying to get as quick as they can down the backside of the course, but nobody close enough amongst this quartet to really do anything to each other.
Not at all. And Joe, I have not had the fortune to be able to drive this track, but I've talked to a couple of folks that do, and they say that Museum Corner like that, going down like that, is akin to a dead drop roller coaster. You can feel your gut just fly up into your throat. That elevation change is so severe.
It often gets compared to the corkscrew out in Laguna Seca. It really does resemble it in a lot of ways, but it's its own beast for sure. As these four swing through turn 1. Let's take a look a little bit behind them. Very tight between Duhamel and Prue. Actually, it's about 4 cars together as well. Just ahead of them, that's Strykars in the number 07. And then Christopher Richards in the 49 is getting chased.
Yeah, this field really starting to settle out into a bunch of different battles here, as here they come. That's Prue trying to make a look on Duhamel. Can't make it work there into Charlotte's Web. He's going to have to try again. He's going to be very brave if he tries this through the Museum Corner, but we will have to see, taking a look out the back there.
As we watch from Duhamel's car, slightly different lines on the way in, a tiny lockup, watching from Strykars here at the head of the train. And it looks like everybody's going to get through there cleanly. Everybody trying to reel in. Ooh, great exit from Duhamel, actually, as he gets right under the gearbox of Strykars. Once again, extremely different lines between the pair of them, and Kyle looks like he had the better one.
And indeed does look that way, but the pressure is still certainly oncoming, running a little bit wide there, but that sets him up. One of the characteristics of this track is the fact that there are multiple lines you can take, but here he goes, tucking up behind in the draft. He's going to maybe think about jinking to the inside here. No, he's going to stay behind, maybe be later on the brakes into 2. No, he's going to just stay behind and be nice and safe.
So Prue's doing what you mentioned earlier on. He is putting lots of pressure on Duhamel. See if he can find any way by, and breaking down into Charlotte's Web. Wow, Duhamel now starting to gain a little bit on Strykars once again. Starting to become more of a 3-car fight. It
is indeed. All of these drivers seeming to have better portions of the track that really suit their styles. Whew, there you see a nice little jink there from Sebastian Prue, making sure that he didn't run too far over onto that left side curbing, as that is a 4-way battle almost, with all of them starting to line up. Christopher Richards starting to poke his nose behind as well.
Watching from that popcorn position as they come through 12 and 13. Oh, and once again, it seems like Duhamel just struggling on his way over that crest. Car not looking all that stable there as it starts to lose mechanical grip. Come off of the final turn, but Duhamel's going to stay safe for the time being. keeping himself out of arm's reach from Sebastian Prue in the number 79.
Yeah, Joe, it looks like Duhamel's really, as you said, struggling through that 13-14 complex, but on the final corner, the quick little jink to the left in turn 15, he's able to just get enough of a good exit there to be able to keep Prue behind him and minimize any chance of an overtake. Big lock up there in front, and there goes Prue wide. Oh, good move by Richards to avoid.
Great heads up by the 49. Could have wound up just plowing into that Williams liveried machine. Let's watch the replay one more time. Prue, I almost want to say it looks like he's just trying a little too hard.
Yeah, it looks like he may have locked up the rears there ever so slightly, caught it, went back to apply the brakes, and the rears just locked up again. When we were on board with Richards, you heard me say that about the brake dust coming off the back, so I think that's what happens. But this is going to bump Prue down to 21st spot as you see him there working on Neil Alexander.
At least gets the car going, but many positions down. He's in 21st, unfortunately. As we've been watching this, P3's had a bit of a similar situation in which nobody's made any passes. Verity still leads Menino, but Menino is sticking within about half a second behind the 04 and just waiting for some sort of mistake, just like we saw.
Yeah, at this point, what Menino can really do is just start to position the car to, frankly, be as obnoxious as possible to Stefan Verity. He just wants to fill his mirrors as much as possible so that when Verity goes into a braking zone, he's not looking up the road, he's not looking to the apex that he's going to be hitting in a couple of seconds, and instead he's checking behind him to see if Menino's going to make a move. And so this has just got to be cool and collected from David, and I think we've seen his patience before. He could definitely pull that.
What's incredible, with all the spins and wrecks that we saw at the start, we've only had one retirement, and that's Dave Peterson. Everybody else went in and got repairs and is back out running again. Very similar to what we saw last week, where if you get the car on the track, you never know. You can maybe gain a few. Down into the first turn, still not gaining P3. Menino, who we ride on board with the helmet cam, is following in the tire tracks. Another good look at how blind it is up over here, flat out through that right-hander of 4, and then breaking down into Charlotte's Web.
And that fourth corner, Joe, that is one of the most mentally straining corners I have ever driven on the iRacing sim, because every fiber in your being as you crest up over that hill is saying, I am not going to make this corner. I have to lift or I am going to end up in the grass, and you just have to keep your foot down. There they go through Museum Corner. Little bit of a wiggle out the back there for Menino. Cost him maybe a couple of hundredths of a second, but he's still within striking distance of Verity ahead.
Oh, and we had a mistake from Alex Guyon. That's going to give a spot to Owen McLaughlin. If we can get a replay from the number 90, he was able to take advantage of a big oops from the 808.
Jumping back here to the replay, there you see it going down into Charlotte's Web.
No, he gets it back, excuse me.
Yeah, that's what it was right there. And here comes the fight back from Guyon, or from McLaughlin rather, trying to see if he can do. There it goes by.
Yeah, he's got it back.
He's got it back. All right, good for Owen. Way to be some nice heads-up driving there, being able to make that over-under work.
Yeah, just way too hot in for Alex Guyon. Gave up what could have been a spot. Still, he's in 6th. So P3 and P4 close, P5 and P6 close, and then from back, most of the drivers kind of running their own race from here. We're almost a third of the way in, so we could see some early stops if anybody feels stuck.
We could, but I would imagine we're going to want to see these guys coming in maybe about 5 minutes from now. We've seen most of these cars try to extend out the pit cycle as much as possible for 2 reasons. 1, you extend longer, you got to put less fuel into the car. And 2, these cars love running on light fuel. They positively dance across the track, and I think they are a lot faster and a lot more adaptable to drive when they're light on fuel.
Ooh, let's go back up to Menino, because the 3 is only about car length and a half back from Verity. This is the closest we've seen him in a while. Look at that as they come down the front stretch across the line and down to 1. He's even going to show his nose, trying to get into the head of the 04. Doesn't work this time. Wow, strong on the brakes into the Alabama roller coaster. And he's going to need that to try and make a pass work. Being able to just send it into the corner. It does cost him some time on the exit, it looks like, though.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be able to make that over-under work coming through the coaster, but it was a very, very good job from Verity to just plant that car on the inside of the corner and not let him go for that move. So that's some really heads-up driving from Verity, but here they go getting close down into Museum. They're going to keep it single file. Menino just continuously applying that pressure.
Eventually, you have to imagine it should give him something, even if it's a small mistake out of Verity. All about positioning that car. Coming down into 13 and 12 and 13 once again. Loses out. So drops back a little bit. This is all happening about 5 seconds behind second place. Nick Johnston is kind of in no man's land. And you can see up at the top, Greg Seitz, who's also in no man's land, is leading the way, and by enough of a margin that he's just pumping in fast laps at this point. The 74 also about 5.5 seconds ahead of everybody else. Bit of a swapping of positions, yeah, here between Kita and LeBlanc, and Matthew Hall also going to be in it as he gets to the inside, almost being forced down to the pit wall. Both of them pinching down to the apex, and Hall has to give it up as Kita is determined to hold on to P10.
Kita not letting anything go there. Shades of Schumacher and Barrichello at Gongaro ring with that pinch down on the line. Coming up over that blind crusted turn 4. Looks like they're going to stay stationary there. Hall not able to really take much of an advantage, but some really good heads-up driving there from everybody. That could have ended in disaster, but they were able to keep it all nice and orderly.
I'm a bit surprised that neither came back to the racing line. Typically, you see them pinch down and then come back, and they both were playing a game of chicken that neither was willing to give way. As these three stay together, LeBlanc leading in 9th, Kita in 10th, Hall in 11th. Are they going to approach back together soon? Let's see if they can find some sort of advantage here towards the end of the lap.
Looks like they're going to stay relatively. We've seen cars really struggle there through that 11, 12, 13, 14 complex there. That final carousel around. It's one of the faster corners on the track, so downforce is at a premium, and that dirty air just ever so disrupting the little amount of downforce that these cars make.
They seem to be somewhat stuck after they had that scare of a few opportunities at some overtakes. LeBlanc and the sister Williams liveried car, and that 542 sitting just within the top 10. Good on the brakes there for Takeshi Kita, not so good on the throttle as the car wiggles back and forth trying to find the power. That loses him about a half a second.
Yeah, that rear end of the car just getting a little bit slippery, Joe. I don't think that has anything to do with tire wear necessarily. That is just a little bit of driver error happening as they're keeping it here still nice and calm. We haven't really seen anybody try to go for a good battle.
Oh, I just saw a change of position for the 79 and the 413, and that is Sebastian Prue. Remember, he's trying to recover after his mistake. Didn't I say that he fell down to 22nd? He's only just got 19th here with that move. So it's not been as quick of inroads as I expected out of him.
No, I think Prue is suffering from the same problems that everybody else is, just an inability to overtake here at Barber, but he has done a good job to get his way on up the road.
He's gained a couple of spots at the very least. Now, we could go back to Guyon and McLaughlin. McLaughlin's still ahead of the 808, but he's got it back down to 0.4 of a second. So again, this is for 5th position as they come through Museum Corner. Very different lines, a lot more curb from Owen McLaughlin over that middle apex.
Yeah, the multiple lines here, very, very different. Everybody's seeming to just kind of do what suits them and not really paying attention to what you would think of as the standard traditional fastest line.
It is open setup, so I wonder if they just kind of have to drive it differently according to how they set up the car. And again, way wide on the entry for McLaughlin as Guyon just kind of brings it in more shallow. It doesn't hurt him either. He's still within 0.6 of a second. Hasn't really been cost too much as we ride on board on the roll hoop of the 808 car.
And there you see a little bit better on the brakes there for Guyon, continuing to trace down McLaughlin. But McLaughlin able to get a good exit out of that corner. I think Guyon here is going to be too far back to really make anything happen.
Canadian sporting his flag's colors on the car. They come out of Charlotte's Web towards Museum. Yeah, he's fallen back just a little bit, and he doesn't seem prone to try and challenge. As they drop in elevation, both get on the throttle, start to pick it up, and then it's slingshotting through the S's, a 1 and a 2, and then you get the car settled. You bring it off to the right side once again. This one with a very fast entry, then braking hard as it compresses down at the bottom of the hill and gets light over the blind crest. Both of them taking it well, navigating this thing as they probably have hundreds of times before at this point.
Exactly. This is one of those tracks that it's a real rhythm track, Joe. Once you get into a good groove here, it is easy to continually do fastest lap after fastest lap after fastest lap. But if you are unlucky enough to have something that throws you ever so slightly, just gets you out of rhythm, and it can take you a couple of laps to sort of recover for it. But both of these drivers, McLaughlin and Guyon, clearly in that groove, in that rhythm, and able to just put down some really remarkably consistent times.
Menino working on his consistent times. He's managed to get it down to a 16.4, and that's been doing well for him because you can see he's under the rear wing of Stephen Verity. In fact, he's got it down to 0.3 of a second now. The Rust Racing driver can clearly see that number 3 in the mirror.
Really closing that gap down, and as you saw that shot earlier, a couple of cars up ahead, the leaders have indeed started to catch traffic here at about lap 15, 16 is when they're really starting to get into the thick of it. So this is where this almost turns into a multi-class race. There you see Menino taking a little bit of a jink there to the outside, just trying to position that car a little bit well, looking like his brakes caught ever so slightly coming in, but he's able to keep that gap nice and tight. Here they come down into turn 1. He's not going to make the move here. A little bit of a wider line. Once again, going for that over-under. Let's see if Verity gives him anything on the inside. A little bit more there. This could be a run for Menino.
This is the best run I think we've seen for him. Does he look to the inside? He does. Just a lane over, but not a serious attempt. He'll have to hold behind. And look at how much traffic is in front of them. We've only lost 2 more cars. Helm and Smorrell are our latest retirees. Collender is going to be the first to pull off to the side, so he'll let them through with a nice bit of polite racing deep into the corner. I think Menino's starting to feel the pressure to try and make something happen. Twice now we've seen him get very close to the back of that 04.
And that little check up there through the museum as he goes, trying to make a move down the S, but thinks better. Little check up though there for Verity, caused by Donald Olson in front of him, just running his racing line. No fault on either side, but he just had to hit the brakes a little bit harder than we'd have liked to. That really left for Menino to catch up. Now they're coming up behind David Hebert as they pull onto the main straight. Hebert gets off to the side, so good heads-up driving from him. But these drivers thundering down past the pit straight, only about 0.3 of a second between them.
Making sure that Verity can see him. Menino has been showing himself, looking to get in his head, and we finally had a pass for 5th. That was McLaughlin being overtaken by Guyon, and he must have gotten either some sort of slowdown penalty or something. I'm not sure.
Well, we jump back to replay here. Yeah, there you see McLaughlin off to the side, very clearly slowing down. Joe, I think you're right. I think that's a slowdown.
Now, as he's coming onto the front stretch, he does make a mistake, and he's a little slow. Yeah, look at that. He would have been something under threat, but then, yeah, right there, he absolutely slows the car up and intentionally seems to let him through.
I have no explanation on that, Joe. We may have to ask Owen about it a little bit later to figure out what happened, because that's not making a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't seem like he had to give that one up. But hopefully we can pick his brain as we once again look at 3rd place. Verity still the same distance apart from Menino. Neither of them going too wide to slip up out of the final turn. As they start on to lap 19, we are getting towards the end of the pit window now.
We are indeed, in Wildridge, Stritchards, and Duhamel all diving in thus far. Stritchards coming in on lap 15, Wildridge and Duhamel coming in on this past lap. So some of the lower place guys trying to think about it there. You saw Menino thinking about doing a move. I got to be honest, Joe, if I'm David Menino, I'm thinking very seriously about diving into the pits this lap, trying to go for the undercut. This is a good pit range.
Absolutely, especially with him being this close and having the difficulty trying to make the overtake. He's got 9 seconds on Alex Gaon, so he's probably not going to hurt himself with a position. At worst, he just loses a little bit of time to his rival. Up in front of them, that's Strykars that you mentioned, having just taken his pit stop. Oh, very close to the back of him. Into 12. Still not able to do anything with it. And they're coming up to the back of Kyle very, very fast. Does he go in? No, but he is going to hold up Verity. And Menino's got his best opportunity yet. Very hard to make passes down into turn 1, though. He'll have a tiny bit of slipstream. He looks back to the outside onto the racing line, and it's just not quite there.
But he's going to go super wide through 1. Let's see if he can get something done here. Has to check up a little bit. Verity just barely braking the car at the apex. Good defensive driving. That'll be real frustrating for Menino, but that's very heads up from Verity. Now they thunder down into Charlotte's Web. God, you can see just how much better Menino appears to be on those brakes, but Verity just knowing exactly how to position the car to prevent him taking the move.
Don't need to go to it, but I can report that Hall and LeBlanc made contact out of the crest of 13, and they have since come into the pits to try and get repairs from that damage. Verity and Menino, just inches apart from each other at times, have been putting on a great show to determine the final spot on the podium. Once again, getting close down the backstretch as he picks up that slipstream. So, is he going to try and come in this time? Oh, he takes a big look into 14.
Takes a big look, able to carry a lot of speed in there. Greg Seitz doing Greg Seitz things and setting the fastest lap of the race. Here comes Menino. Good run there. May have been a little over-eager. That slight check up at the apex costing him dearly. Not nearly enough of a draft unless he's super bold. He jinks to the inside. No, he's not going to do it. He's going to try to set back up, but I don't think this is going to work. Verity knows exactly how Menino wants to take that corner, and he's able to defend it. But Joe, just a note, Gore, Hull, Gunderson, all coming in a pit on this last lap, as McLaughlin and Palacio doing the same thing now.
Dominoes are starting to fall with 18 minutes left to go. Down through Charlotte's Web. Menino is trying to make this a matter of if, or matter of when and not if, he can get by Stephen Verity on board in the helmet cam. Oh, once again into the corners. He is just chucking it in. If he's not careful, he might get into the back of Stephen.
Yeah, he's got to be very, very careful with that. We've seen a couple of guys get into problems when they lock up either the rears or the fronts on these cars. Very, very easy to do. There's a lot of trail braking that you've got to do at these corners here at Barber, so very easy to lock things up. But here we go. Coming around these last corners. Is anybody going to come into the pits? That's a wide angle from Menino, but he is going to stay out. But Seitz and Johnston are both in.
Interesting stuff. So our top two have come down the lane, and whew, wow, Seitz went way deep into his box. I thought he was going to miss it. Johnson also hits his marks. Seitz is off. Nick Johnston also out and away, and quicker by a second and a half in his stall than Greg Seitz.
Interesting there to keep a note on. The only problem being is that Greg Seitz still has a massive, massive lead, but we're going to jump back up here to Verity and Menino. This battle continuing to rage as they go here towards the museum corner, diving down that hill. I gotta think they're coming in this lap, Joe.
You would imagine so, but we do still have some others that have yet to pit. Broomhead, Bridges, Nunez, Prue have all not come in for their scheduled fuel stop. Verity and Menino, I almost wonder if they're a little distracted by what's happening and aren't thinking about the pits quite yet. But eventually they are going to have to come in. Let's watch and see. And both of them, same lap.
All right, so now it's here down to a battle between the virtual pit crews who can hit their mark the best and get off and get on their way.
Menino trying to push that entry as much as he can. And look, he's trying to get out of the way so he can visibly see his box coming. Drifting down. Verity also trying to spy his marker. Oh, look at that. Menino was blind coming into there, and that hesitation might cost him. No, he's out very quickly. He's almost overlapped with him. It's going to be a drag race past the cones. Goes to the favor of Menino at first, but then it switches back into the long right-hander, and Verity is just barely ahead as they come out in traffic. Adam right to the inside. Oh, tantalizingly close for the number 3.
I thought for sure he had that there, Joe, and I thought that traffic was going to play into Menino's hands just as easily. But there we go. He gets a little bit caught out there by that lap traffic in front. That's Neil Alexander. Verity very, very slow. Alexander not wanting to get out of the way. That cost him a couple of seconds. Menino trying to capitalize here, but he's hoping to get by before the museum corner. He does, and it's back to single file for third and fourth.
Verity's been watching plenty of F1. He got on the radio and shouted blue flags. And it seemed to have worked as he got by. Menino still sticking with it. And indeed, that was the last lap that our drivers could go, as everyone else has now pitted. But incredibly, I think we are up to 18 cars still left on the lead lap. That's very few out of 41 starters. In fact, that's less than half the field still running on the same lap as the leader as we come off the final quarter. This is the best opportunity yet for David Menino down into turn 1. But how brave is he? Verity's on the outside. Menino trying to send it into the corner, can't keep the overlap, and once again the 04 denies him.
Joe, I thought he would have had that for sure, but you saw that little bit of correction he had to throw into the steering wheel coming out of that final corner. That cost him, I think, the 10th he needed. If he had been about a nose farther up the road, he very well could have got it. And that's what it takes here at Barber. It's so close.
All this to decide the last step on the podium. By the way, Nick Johnston has continued to try and reel in Greg Seitz. He's got it down to 4.1 seconds. There's the in-and-out car, who is in and out quicker than his rival, but it only gave him so much. Since then, he's been trying to do it on pace. Oh, very much on pace. You can see him putting wheels off into the grass out of turn 13, and often that results in disaster. So he's using every inch of the pavement.
He really is. He wants Seitz at this point, and he has done a good job of reeling him back in. Just under 14 minutes to go here at Barber, so he's not out of the question.
I think Seitz is just dealing with a lot of traffic here, because it's down to 3.4 seconds now, and I don't think that Johnston is that much quicker.
Joe, Menino's in the pits.
Oh no, speeding maybe?
I think that may be it. I think he got a pit lane violation for coming in as fast as we saw him do. Yeah, he's coming to a stop. Looks like no work on the car. That's a violation for David Menino.
I'm going to guess that it was on the way out, because if it was on the way in, I think he'd have to serve it during his pit stop. 15 seconds. That all but confirms it, that David Menino got a little too antsy trying to get past those cones, and he has paid for it. Just ahead of him now, inheriting some positions, Olivier Legault and Takeshi Kita. They're at a nice little tussle.
Nice little tussle indeed. That is
That's
Legault out in front.
That's Exton. Sorry that was spinning in front of him, a lapped car. Go ahead.
Oh, it just scared me a little bit. I got concerned for him. But Legault able to really put down some good times here, keeping Kita behind. Kita, a very aggressive driver normally. We've seen him in a multitude of series across GSRC. Always a blast to watch, so I would not be surprised if he sends a late move down the inside here at some point.
Yeah, Takeshi's been nicknamed the Samurai, and he certainly seems to like to show it with his moves, but right now he's going to have to get a little bit closer to attack on the number 88. Maybe some of this lap traffic will help them. That's Bart Cook up ahead along with David Hebert. Neither are for a position, but they are fighting with each other, so they might not be willing to to give up those spots quite so readily. Down into turn 1, Legault still trailing behind, and he breaks a lot deeper than Cook into the Alabama roller coaster. He gets a face full of the rear wing. Unfortunately, does not exit as well. Here comes Takeshi Kita. He knows he's got to run. He looks to the inside. He's got the overlap. Legault stays to the racing line. Can't come down to the apex. They're going to go too wide through Charlotte's Web. And now it's a drag race up to the museum corner. Are they going to get into the back of this traffic? Is it going to be a situation where one of them gets a pick? No, they still don't go by them, but it does come out in favor of Legault, who retains that 7th spot.
But not for long. He had to really slam on the brakes there to get up, to not run into the back of Cook. There you see Kita try to poke his nose down the inside of those 9 and 10 sweepers. He's still got a great run. He's going to poke his nose to the inside again on turn 11. Can he make it work here? No, that's going to be Legault closing the door on Kita. But if I am Olivier Legault, I am furious with Bart Cook right now. That really held him up on that last lap.
And made him incredibly vulnerable, which has not gone away. Takeshi Kita trying once again to get a good launch, but it backfires. And he is unfortunately fallen back away from where he was before. So 8th position. He can regroup and try it again. He's got 10 minutes left to go.
Yeah, Kita's certainly not done with this fight, but that lap traffic really playing into both of their hands there at different point. Kudos to Hebert just being able to, getting off of the racing line on that main straightaway, causing as little damage as possible to either driver's race. So massive kudos to him. But now you can see Kita falling back a little bit, about 6.5 tenths back.
Interesting to note that Johnson, after he gained some of those seconds in the traffic, has not given it away. Greg Seitz still 3.5 seconds up the road, making sure and keeping him honest. There is our leader right now, Greg Seitz, down into Charlotte's Web. This is rather impressive considering the margin that he had over the field in qualifying pace, that Johnston's making sure that he doesn't just romp away with this thing.
No, he's not. I thought for sure that Seitz was just going to run off into the distance, and Johnson really doing a good job of, frankly, keeping him honest. Just keeping him nice and easy, making sure that he doesn't make any mistakes, and in case Seitz makes one, like he did at Long Beach last time out, that Johnson will be there to capitalize.
Did make me wonder if we have any hard chargers here today, since we said it is tough to pass. And we were looking at him just a bit ago. Takeshi Kita from 20th to 8th, up 12 spots. And that is not too bad. I think Matthew Gunderson may have one up to him, 29th to 14th. I think that is, 15 spots up, the number 33. And still on the lead lap, so great job to Gunderson.
Well, one of the drivers not on the lead lap, though, Barry Cochran, has done a good job as well. I think he's up about 20 or 21 spots, so really moving his way up, taking an advantage of some attrition in there, more so than the other drivers in front, though.
Wow, yeah, good catch on that one. Sometimes it is all about just keeping the car pointed forward and moving. And Cochran showing that well, and Kita finally got Legault as soon as we looked away. This happened just now into 12 and 13. Going to get a run out of the first set of the S's. Yeah, here, watch this in the red, white, and blue machine. That is Takeshi.
And so there he goes. You see, just taking a slightly different line, wider exit there to line it up. Good run off the outside. Here they go into that left-hander, kicks right, or the right-hander right, kicks right back to the left. That's turn 12. Good moves across the board from Takeshi. He is now up the road from Olivier Legault. Put him about a decent amount. As I was looking earlier, he had gotten some, but under braking, able to close up a little bit more.
Yeah, Kita about 6 tenths ahead, but 7th place is now his after wanting it for many a lap. Not much happening in front of him. We already talked about the gap from Seitz to Johnston. Verity 16 seconds back from those top two. Guyon is another 15 seconds back and forth, and McLaughlin still 3.5 back from Guyon. Our top 5 seem to be basically looking to the checkered flag from here, otherwise only hoping for a mistake from ahead, otherwise not likely to get a chance to try and overtake or attack the car up in front of them.
No, but as we've seen with this traffic, just kind of keeping my eyes peeled on the rest of the field, this is anywhere but over yet. A lot of these guys, when they get offline, because of the camber, the sort of quirky cambers of these corners, it can be very easy to spin the car when you are getting overtaken by a faster car. So there may be a situation where that happens, but we're going to jump back to P9 right now. This is Menino trying to work his way back up through the field right now, trying to work on Michael Broomhead.
All the way from a chance to get onto the podium to suddenly finding himself possibly being lapped here at the end. Menino on a recovery drive. Broomhead only has about a tenth or two ahead of the number 3. Going to get a shot down into Museum Corner, at least this time into there. But look at how much stronger he is. Almost looks like he has to check up to keep from running into the back of the double lot. And in fact, that compromised his exit.
It did indeed, and for David, if he's able to quickly dispatch Broomhead here, that battle we were keeping our eyes on earlier, Kita and Legault, that is only about 7/10 of a second, or about a second up the road from these two, so he could very well do a great run there. He's going to dive it into the inside of the final carousel. Gutsy late-minute move there from David Menino.
Saw the opportunity, he wasn't going to let it slip by. So that will get him up into 9th. Legault, as you mentioned, 1.2 ahead with 5 minutes left to go. It's still possible.
It is very possible. David's got a great car under him, and there you see, able to take advantage of any mistake. Broomhead just gave him the slightest opening, and David said, "Thank you very much, I will take that."
Down into Charlotte's Web. Legault's already been demoted one spot recently from Kita. Sure, he'd like to prevent another one from going south as they all trail in line towards Museum Corner and drop down the hill. Boy, I tell you what, they might actually catch them sooner rather than later because they've got Neil Alexander in front of them, and he's not really doing a great job of letting them through. In fact, does a horrible job down through the S's, catches out Kita, and this gives a chance to Legault to try and get the spot back side by side into 12, and now we got a 4-car battle, all for 7th place.
That run there from Alexander just absolutely allowed Menino to catch up to the back. You see him going wide here as opposed to that aggressive inside maneuver on the last lap, trying to set up here to get the best run he can out of that final corner. Oh, that's Legault getting a little bit onto the grass. I think that's going to cost him. They're side by side coming down the pit straight. It's advantage Menino through 1, and he's going to hold the position.
Menino in 9th still, trying to keep Broomhead from taking it, or Legault from getting back at him. Legault looks for the launch coming off of the Alabama roller coaster, and he might actually get demoted instead as Broomhead up behind him takes a look. He's given space at the apex, but Legault will deny him for the time being. Menino now sees Takeshi Kita. Can he get himself that 7th spot?
He may have a chance, but Kita thus far have been able to keep it nice and even and clean. About 0.6 of a second up the road. That gap is fluctuating, and it seems like every timing and scoring pylon that they come across, as we've got about 3 minutes to go here.
And so we've got a little ways before our leaders get that white flag. Coming through the final few corners. And it looks like another hold up, and Takeshi Kita almost gets touched from Menino. And I think he did make a little bit of contact with Barnett, who he was trying to lap.
We're going to take a quick look back at a replay here. There you can see that's Kita in the front, getting checked up behind. Oh, maybe the Harris to contact Menino into the back as well. Just very bad place to overtake a slow car right there. But as we jump back to this action, we're about to get a pass here, I think, as Legault looking to the outside of Menino. Menino able to hold, defend, and keep it off, but Michael Broomhead gets a good exit out of Charlotte's Web. He may have a chance here.
It is all kicking off here in the final laps. Menino having to play defense. Legault wants to try and retake P8. More lap traffic in front of them. This time it's Donald Olson. Let's see if Olson can figure out a good spot to peel away and let them through. It was a little awkward at first, but it works out well for Kita. He's now going to have a buffer between himself and the rest of that pack.
Menino going to be hoping that Olsen's going to do the same for him. He does, gives him nice room on the apex there of turn 13. That allows him to get on through, but Kita's got a good advantage over him now, and it looks like it may be Legault trying to make some room up on Menino.
Front stretch just a little bit too short. Now, are we going to get the white flag for Greg Seitz here? It's going to be tight. I think we are. I think it'll be just under. There is our leader coming down into the line. And yes, it is white flag coming through now. So he's actually well ahead of the group. Oh, let's go to Menino, because now, once again, he's being attacked by Legault around the outside of Charlotte's Web. And I think Olivier might have something here. Oh, no, he falls back in line. I thought he had a good enough launch to challenge down in a museum.
I thought he did too, but it just wasn't enough. But Menino gets a little bit too much in the curve there. Oh, Johnson spun. Johnson in the wall.
Oh, no. And he takes a toe. Oh, we'll have to go back to that later, figure out what happened, but an almost certain second place slipped through his fingers as we come back to this battle between Legault and Menino. They are losing touch with Takeshi Kita in front of them. With all that squabbling, we're down to only 11 cars left on the lead lap, and these that we're watching are some of the last ones, believe it or not, despite being for what is now a 6th place. Greg Seitz around the final few corners. He's got a little bit of lap traffic, but it's almost half a minute to the next car behind. It did wind up being a wide margin, but not simply due to his pace. It was a little bit of luck with his main rival making an error. Victory for Greg Seitz, making up for a poor start at Long Beach. That's got to feel good.
And jumping back in the field, Legault's gotten the move done on Menino on the inside. There he goes. They're going to drag race down the backstretch here into Museum Corner, but it's going to be advantage Menino. Takes a little bit too much of that outside curve, but able to keep it nice under control. Great defense there from Menino, not letting it up.
Verity getting promoted to a 2nd place, and Alex Gaillon now coming across the line for a 3rd as well. Things still tight between Legault, Menino, and Broomhead. They're coming around the final few corners. Is anybody going to make a move out of desperation, or are they going to be able to just cruise it home? Menino leads the trio. So far, so good. And he is indeed going to hold on to 7th. How about Takeshi Kita up to 6th from 18th, or excuse me, 20th even. Now, let's take a look at the replay with Johnston. Was this a self-made error, or did he run into some trouble with traffic?
Well, here you can see him right there in the center. All right, hold on. We're jumping around on it here. There... That's him there. There's another car in the wall. I'm not sure who that is. So here he is coming through. That's Johnson.
Oh, no. Trying to figure out who that was. In fact, I'm even just trying to figure out where Johnston finished so I could pull him up. There's so much going on here. So he's the number 28 here. Hold on 1 second. Behind the scenes here as I'm trying to track him down and where he finished.
Looks like 17th, Joe.
Not seeing him in 17th on mine. We'll try and get that information during the break. Sad to see that that's how it wound up. We'll come back after this with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Barber Motorsports Park. It was an interesting one, especially there at the end, with a bit of a surprise for a few drivers getting promoted onto the podium. Greg Seitz, though, dominated today, leading from the drop of the green. He did have some pressure from behind from Nick Johnston, who wound up in 12th in the end, but his run-in with the lap car of Bart Cook cost him in the end. And Stephen Verity found himself into second place. Alex Guyon from 7th to 3rd. It's got to feel pretty good about that, especially considering he also withstood pressure early on. Owen McLaughlin was 4th, and Julio Palacio also making his way forward from 12th to P5. Kind of a quiet one. I don't think we really saw too much of him on screen. We did see a lot of Takeshi Kita, though. 20th to 6th place. Got to work on that qualifying, but otherwise, he's got to feel proud. David Menino was 7th, unfortunately going backwards after he qualified 3rd, and Olivier Legault was 8th. Michael Broomhead was exactly where he started in 9th, and Matthew Hall rounds out your top 10.
Coming home in 11th was the first of our AM drivers with Tyler Gore, followed by Nick Johnston. We showed and talked about his couple last lap calamities there. Christopher Richards able to bring the car home in 13th, followed by Matthew Gunderson and Luis Gonzalez Nunez. Kyle Streichartz in 16th, followed by Brett Thurman and Brian Hotham in 17th and 18th. J.R. Williams able to come home in 19th, followed by Barry Cochran in 20th.
21st went to Sean Duhamel. Then you've got Jacob Exton in 22nd. And David A. Bear was the last driver, 1 lap down in 23rd. Then you get to 2 lap down drivers, Nick Colander, Brett Accord, and Donald Olson. From there in 27th, Bart Cook, the one who unfortunately was involved in that incident at the end, was 3 laps down in 27th. Remillard at 28th, Adam Wright 29th, and Daniel Barnett in 30th. From there on down, it was drivers who had very bad days or simply did not make it to the checkered flag. This time, though, first to the checkered flag was Greg Seitz with an impressive victory. And even though the margin was 23 seconds at the end, it wasn't always that big. Greg, how much of the gap between yourself and Johnston for much of the race was you managing it, and how much of it was Johnston really keeping the pressure on?
Oh, I think it was just mostly traffic, honestly. I was running 115s when I was in clear air and running 117s when I was behind traffic, and there was, no reason to really push. It looked like I had about a half a second, in general on him. So I took advantage of that just by playing it extra safe because, it's tough when you're lapping people, especially on a track that's tight. So you got to give a lot of room, make sure you don't surprise anybody. So, yeah, it was mostly that. Well, he had good pace, no doubt. But yeah, I just was playing it extra safe there.
And that extra safeness seems to have paid off with a victory. Now, compared to last week, a big turnaround. Was it important for you to try and come back with a win this week compared to what you experienced back in California?
Yeah, definitely. I made a mistake there, and it cost me. So, I was trying for a fairly mistake-free race, and after practice qualifying, I was happy to see that I had a pretty good pace advantage. So, like I said, I once I saw that, I was trying to mostly take advantage of it as in terms of being a little bit extra safe, taking tires, things like that.
In the end, it's all wound up in your favor. Now, did you manage to go back and see what happened to Nick Johnston yet? Were you even aware that he had something happen at the end of the race?
I was only aware because I saw him drop off the relative box, so I knew something had happened. I'm guessing he got tangled up with a lap traffic, which was my big worry in the race. So if that's what happened, that was really unfortunate for him.
That is unfortunately what is exactly what happened. So, well, congratulations on a win, and hopefully we'll get to see you in a week's time.
Thanks. I want to congratulate my teammate Steven as well. So yeah, I think he's up next, but he kind of inherited a second place, but a podium more there at second is great for him.
That was Greg Seitz, winner here in the number 74. Up next, Stephen Verity finds himself popped up into second and has also popped into the booth to talk to DJ.
Stephen, that was a inherited second there after the problems with Nick, but you had a very busy race battling for well over the first half of that with David Menino. Talk me through that.
Hey guys, how you doing? unlucky for Nick, but happy to take P2. Although, yeah, it was such an intense battle with David. I was sweating in here. I actually had to have my wife come in and open a window because I was so hot during the race. But it was intense. He probably had a little bit more pace than me, but I was able to hold him off. And then I guess he told me after the race he got a speeding in the pit lane penalty, which was unfortunate.
Yeah, we suspected as much that happened. I mean, this is a track notoriously hard to overtake on. Everybody always talks about it, but it really looked like it was less about that coming into effect and really more about you just positioning the car perfectly without giving away your trade secrets, obviously. Talk us through some of the mentality of the defense when you've got somebody just bearing down on you like that.
Yeah, I'm basically just I had a full defensive attitude in this particular race given the track, so I was gonna fight in every corner to position my car in the right place to prevent him from getting around. It just basically comes down to that, just being defensive, being aggressive, just given the nature of the track.
Well, it was a great show to see, and before we let you go, my friend, anybody you need to thank tonight?
Yeah, I definitely want to thank the guys at Rust Racing, great crew of folks, and Greg, of course, for all the setup work and all the tips, and of course you all for putting on a great league and a great broadcast. I really enjoy doing this every Thursday.
Well, we very much enjoy watching you. Thank you very much. And Joe, I believe, has caught up with our AM class winner. Excuse me. No, we have Alex Guyon in the booth, our third place finisher.
Hi, guys.
Alex, congratulations on managing a podium today. Certainly looked like it was an interesting one for you as well. I think you had your own little problems with Owen McLaughlin for part of the race.
Yeah, we had a very nice battle for most of the race. I wasn't so proud of my kind of dive bomb in the slow corner, so I decided to give him back his position and to leave for another battle. And eventually, I finished by gaining that position.
That explains. We thought that maybe you just slipped up and that he had got it back naturally.
No, it was really a fair play decision, because if Owen hasn't take a different line in this corner, there was been a contact, and it was very nice to let enough room for me. So I decided to give him back his fair play.
Well, that is a huge credit to your sense of sportsmanship. Next round, though, we're heading off to an oval. How are your circle track chops?
I have a little experience in oval racing, but I have a special skill that I can define with not lucky on oval racing. So I'm pretty sure I can make a top 5, but 9 races out of 10, something happens. If it's not a bad crash I get involved in, it's me making a mistake in the pits, or every time is different. I can write a book on my oval racing career.
Well, on that note, then, do you have any plans for any rituals or lucky charms that you're going to try and carry with you?
No, just if I see a black cat, I guess I'm going to kick him.
Well, don't tell the rescue racing people that one.
No, it was a joke.
I know. Alex Guyon, hoping that he finds some sort of lucky charm for the next race, it sounds like, before he gets to Phoenix. Up next, DJ's caught up with our highest AM finisher. We didn't get to see him a whole bunch, but I'm sure Tyler Gore, rather, is feeling pretty good about today.
Tyler, you've got to be pretty happy, as Joe said, finishing in the top of the AM standings, especially at a tricky track like Barber.
All right, I'm tired. That was a tough race. I did some practice for this one, and I did not expect it to go as it did, but I'm super pleased with this result.
It really seemed like the best way to get around there was to just kind of be patient and let people make mistakes in front of you. Were you doing that, or was there any part of the race that you were just like, okay, I've got to go here?
Well, off the start, I managed to open up a good gap, and honestly, I didn't know that I was running at the front of the amateur pack, so I just kind of decided that I was going to pump in consistent laps, not make any mistakes, and see where that landed me. And for a while there, I was watching the Delta with Kyle, because I know he's one of the faster AM guys, and Richards is up there too. And for a while, I was just managing to hold the gap, and I just felt like that was good enough. So no need to push and make those mistakes that are super costly at a track like Barber.
Well, it certainly worked for you, Tyler. Before we let you go and let your sights wander over to a little bit of oval racing next week at Phoenix, anybody you need to thank tonight?
Absolutely. I got to thank the rest of the admin team at PRL and all the drivers in this series that keep it nice and clean, as well as our sponsors, the Butt Kicker, SimMSA, NinjaTrader for helping us out with all of this. And the rest of the guys that I kind of practice with in what we call the asylum, cheers.
Well, thank you very much, Tyler, and enjoy.
Sounds like a very appropriate Alabama celebration there that Tyler's getting to enjoy right now. But we're going to close out with a big thank you to our sponsors before we take off, starting, of course, with Simulation Motorsports Affinity, which can be found at SIMMSA.net if you want to see how they can get you involved with the world of sim racing. And if you want to work on your trading, you can go to NinjaTrader.com. Big thanks to them. They have sponsored for multiple seasons here on the channel of the PRL. And of course, if you've got a sim rig, and I assume if you're watching, you likely do, you can check out thebuttkicker.com to see what all kinds of cool products you can get to improve your experience. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast. You can see them listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. The next race we've got coming up in 1 week's time at Phoenix will be Thursday, January 14th at 9 p.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.